Yep, 1 minute you're minding your own business, you're on solid ground, everything is right with the world, and the next minute you're on your back in the matter of a second, in the matter of a blink of an eye. It can all change, it can all go away, it can all be something different than what it was. The impermanence of it all. That's next on this episode of the Gratitude Journal podcast.
This is the Gratitude Journal podcast.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's all I'm going to say about that. I will also say welcome to another episode of the Gratitude Journal podcast on this Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. It looks delicious outside, although from my vantage point here in the basement lair, I look up through glass block and it looks kind of sunny. I haven't been out since my early morning walk, but it should be a relatively okay day minus a bunch of intermittent storm activity, which we were warned about early in the week. So welcome to it, this podcast that tries, even though it doesn't show up much as new episodes on all of the podcast platforms, and to which your very affable host has little to no excuse. The podcast that tries in small, minute ways, and sometimes in large, extravagant, vocal ways, to find thankfulness and gratitude in the things that maybe are in front of us and maybe we don't recognize. Wasn't there a short story from Edgar Allan Poe, I think, about something where a detective was trying to solve a crime and the person who did the crime realized that the people who were after him would look, under everything and in corners, and he decided to hide it out in plain sight because nobody would figure to look there. I'm going to find the name of that. I don't know why it escapes me. It must be my old age or, my continuing AARP status. But sometimes, as I've mentioned before in previous episodes, this thing that we're after, we're trying to find gratitude for the things that are in front of us is sometimes very difficult to see, or it may be in front of our nose the whole time, or as has happened in the past when I've played maybe one of my younger nephews in chess and they've destroyed me, partially because that board that was sitting in front of my face the whole time, I just didn't see the move. And boy, how many times can we say that, throughout various events and episodes in our lives where we just go, you know what, it was probably in front of me the whole time and I just didn't see it. But here's the thing, and number one point of gratitude for this episode. Lately, I can see things that I never saw before, whether it's a chessboard or not. These new eyeballs are really quite amazing, I have to be honest. And I was pretty petrified to have cataract surgery because I really don't like people messing, with my eyes, and I'd go to the eye doctor and they put that thing in front of you and then blow a puff of air. And I was just like, it was kind of worrying about it, 24 hours ahead of time. I just don't like it. So this was a big thing. And not only is the left eye done, but the right eye is done. I've taken all my drops, and this coming week, I will see my regular eye doctor to determine what kind of prescription is in my future. But I drove down to see my friends Ron and Gary in Kentucky without glasses. I've had to go to the store and online and order a pair of sunglasses, something I've never, ever had to do. And I can see far away. I can't see jack crap up close. So now I've invested in at least 112 different reader glasses, placed strategically all over the house, all over the studio, all over the car, all inside my, my sort of cloth briefcase and, all the stuff that I carry from point A to point B. There has to now be a set of reader glasses that will enable me, to be able to look at up close. But Maybe a new prescription will change that part, but this is gratitude point number one, because being able to see at my age without spectacles is truly a spectacle. So as we progress in this journey, this Alzheimer's journey, and it is a journey for both of us. And I guess I early on never really looked at it that way to a certain extent, because I just kind of gave short shrift. Is that the word? To people who would say, or they would write about the caregiving role of this. And, they're the silent minority. They're the ones, who are not getting the love. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. But I get it. I truly believe the things that were said, and I really never believed them before, because I look at, my role in this life now as, yes, I'm a professional, and yes, I have certain duties job-wise, and I have certain duties to myself, to be the best person that I can be, whatever that means exactly. But I do also realize that my role is also of caregiver. And, this caregiver role can take on a lot of different meanings, and it can, present itself and matriculate into various different levels. I mean, early on in this journey, I was a part of a support group, and I would sit down with these people, and just the horror stories that they were sharing about their role as caregivers, I'd drive away thinking, there is no way that I'm going to be able to be this person. There's no way that I'm going to be able to, facilitate this for myself, much less facilitate this for another person. And in our case, of course, that other person is my wife. So I've realized that this role is one that requires, a certain amount of care for oneself. Now, how that presents itself, I don't know. Like someone will say, well, what are you doing for you? And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing for me. I don't even know how to go about answering that. What I can say is that in ways that maybe are still a little bit unexplainable, I do realize that I am more grateful for smaller things, being that some of the things that I took for granted are no longer available. Like they're no longer a part of things, okay? Like I do a lot of preparing for just about everything. And, this I accept as a part of my role, as a caregiver. So the big thing lately that I've been grateful for is that, Donna still makes me cookies. I know that sounds weird, but, during COVID and I was trying to lose weight, and I was successful, and I was doing some gluten-free stuff, even though I've been doing a lot of reading. The people who aren't celiac, I mean, my twin brother's a celiac and his son's a celiac. I'm not a celiac. I was tested. But yeah, I was reading a lot of articles during COVID, like, the gluten-free lifestyle is, can facilitate weight loss and all this other crap. And really, it's not really all that true, because, you give over to another set of food items, and they're not always the best for you, as I've described. But anyway, during COVID, Donna sort of got in this habit of making these kind of gluten-free cookies using peanut butter and, nothing that really is nothing that would be considered non-celiac related. And so there are times when we have like this Tupperware container and it has like my cookies. Now I try to limit myself to one cookie, but I have to be honest with you, I'm kind of like a sugar person. I mean, there are some people who don't like sweets, like they don't do them. They don't worry about dessert. I don't really do dessert if we go out to eat, and we don't go out to eat very often. But I do have a sweet tooth. Like when someone's celebrating a birthday and they have a cake, I love it. The more icing, the better. I mean, it's crazy. When we go to coffee shops, as we did yesterday when we met up with Brad, and it's almost a guarantee. I know this sounds bad. Then we're gonna share a muffin to go with this coffee or whatever we're drinking. And so as I'm eating, I'm thinking you should not be doing this, but I do. I love it. I have a sweet tooth, and so I try to limit myself. Accentuate the word try to one cookie a day. And so when I know I'm getting low, Donna will look in the Tupperware container and next to it, she'll set out the ingredients. Now, she may not get to the cookies that day, but as they dwindle down, she's kind of already preparing because this is kind of her thing now. And so my thing is, when I'm ascending the stairs from the end of the workday, and as I'm walking up the steps, I can smell that baking has occurred. Okay. Something has occurred. And when I round the corner, I see the cookies on the trays. And I see that look on her face. She's very proud of herself that she, facilitated this. And I'm very happy that I have a new batch of cookies. And I kind of scream, cookies, and she laughs. And this is kind of like this thing that we share about, the cookies. And so I am very grateful for this. I'm grateful that I have this wife who can make me cookies. And even though I shouldn't be having cookies, and it's a huge highlight of my day. And it is even better now that I can see the cookies. I really like finding something for someone when I know they really want it. It can be really small things, seemingly dumb things. But, I have very few friends. And so I try to find things out about these friends that I have. And if I see something that I know they would like because I know this about them, then I'll try to pick it up. If it's something that I can afford, or it's something that, is not going to perish or something like that. So I went down to Kentucky to see Ron and Gary, which I'm very grateful for. It, was very challenging, as it has been the last couple of years, to make sure that everything is set and everything is prepared as much as I can prepare. And I'm very grateful that our friend Jean hung out with Donna the whole weekend. And, she's a tremendous friend to us. And, this allowed me to get some guy time in, which, as I said to Don, I need my guy time. She's like, okay, I get it. And so on the way back, I enjoy stopping in Cincinnati at the store called Jungle Jim's International Market. And not that I'm necessarily a foodie, but as I walk up and down the aisles, I can find something that, kind of appeals to me, whether it's coffee or salsa or something like that. But I mean, this store is just, it's almost unbelievable. And of course, as you know, I have an affinity for craft beer. They do have a fairly sizable beer selection, both local and craft beers and otherwise. And so as I was kind of walking up and down the aisles, I saw this 6-pack of Asahi, and my nephews are, they're sort of entranced by Asia. And in fact, they're twins. And Anthony is actually, seeing a girl from Japan. Now, she's been over here, I think, a couple of times. And both of them have been to Asia several times, namely Japan. And so they're really they're mystified by it, and they're intrigued by it. And they tell me that while they're there, they drank a lot of Asahi beer. Well, Asahi is kind of hard to find in stores. And so as I was walking up and down the aisles of Jungle Jim's International Market, I saw a last remaining 6-pack of Asahi. So I brought it. And I bought it, and I brought it home. So yesterday I went over to their house to drop it off, and they weren't there, but their dad was, and we were talking, and their, very large 90-pound dog was there. And so he was on it like this leash, like outdoor leash, and he was running around being all excited because we were there. Well, he sort of was running back and forth, and as he was walking, running around me, the leash was encircling my foot. And before I got a chance to remove the leash from around my foot, Donna was getting out of the car, and of course, the dog saw her and then ran over. Well, as he ran over, the leash tightened around my ankle, and it like flipped me up in the air. It's almost like 1 minute I was like stationary on the ground, and then I looked down and saw what I thought would transpire. You know how you get kind of like a glimpse of something that's going to happen? And you see, it's like when I was on a motorcycle, when I would, try to train my brain to look ahead and, sort of guess or predict what could happen here, because, your mind is in a half state of bliss and a half state of, what the, WTF the whole time while you're riding. And I kind of saw what was happening, and, in a matter of like milliseconds, I was on my back. So I'm mentioning that because I'm grateful that I didn't really hurt myself, and I was on grass, because it could have been disastrous. I mean, I literally like flew up in the air and then landed on, my butt and my lower back, and my head didn't like flap onto the ground, but it was kind of close to happening. And before I knew it, I was on the ground, and I knew that the chain had done something to my ankle, because it pulled it tight enough to flip me onto the ground. So while I'm sitting here in the studio, I'm flexing my ankle, and there's this like mark, like halfway across, around my ankle. So that covers the whole front. It's just this line that probably could have used a stitch to heal. I don't think so, maybe, but as I'm flexing it really, really hurts. And I'm just grateful that A, I didn't do any more damage to it, and B, that I didn't have a concussion, and C, that I was on grass. I don't know. I had all these plans to talk about some work-related stuff, but I'm not even going to go there. I feel like I am coming to a much more present realization, a much more clear realization that, there are some issues that I deal with in my work life that are going to have to be addressed. To a certain extent, they've already been addressed, but getting the solution once they're addressed is different from just addressing them. So I feel like this is going to be the next large chapter in our world, because regardless of whether I'm a caregiver or not, I still have to perform at a high level. I still have to make sure that as a part of a team, that I'm a contributing member of this team, and that I feel like I have all the resources available to me to continue to be, a contributing member of the team. And last but maybe not least, that I'm being compensated in the right way for my contributions, or what I feel are my contributions to this team. I kind of wanted to go into some of this, but I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to say the other thing that I'm grateful for is the fact that I have this neighbor who I don't really know. And he's been in the neighborhood for a couple of years. And I see him, he's always you ever have one of those persons, they're always doing something, there's always pounding going on or drilling, or, it's this lawn always looks great. And I do the bare minimum, the bare necessities just to make it look like somebody lives here. And it's really actually kind of embarrassing compared to my brothers and sisters. Some of my brothers, their lawns are right out of Northern Living, magazine or something, if such a thing existed. Mine is basically just, the bare minimum, that kind of thing. But this guy is just always doing something. And so we have this problem with this door. Like Donna or I opened it too wide, and the spring thing on the storm door, kind of snaps it back. Well, it's broken. Like as the door's snapping back, it emits this really, really large, like Led Zeppelin, in the 70s type, level of volume that is just like, holy crap. So this thing has to be replaced. So I was on a ladder, looking at this part, so I could order it. And I hear a leaf blower going on. Well, I look outside, and this guy who lives not next door, but across from a neighbor who lives a couple of houses down, is out there with his weed whacker. And he's we have this thing in Northeast Ohio in our city called devil strips. I'm sure they exist somewhere else, but it's it's a strip of grass that separates the sidewalk from the road. And this definitely does not happen everywhere, but it's a thing here, seemingly in Akron, Ohio. And you are responsible, for mowing the devil strip. Even though it may not be your property, you're kind of responsible. And it would look horrible if you didn't. Let's say your lawn were mowed and then the devil strip was 9 feet high. I mean, that would look dumb. Anyway, he was out there with a weed whacker, and he was edging the devil strip, on the sidewalk side. And then he was on the other side, on the roadside, kind of doing the same thing. And I'm like, there's a guy out there weed whacking our devil strip. That's kind of weird. And then it stopped, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then 10 minutes later, I hear a leaf blower. So he's leaf blowing everything that all the mess he just created. And he's in my driveway, making sure that all the particles, got out of the driveway. So I'm thinking either, this guy got a new weed whacker and he's just trying to show it off, or he's just a really nice guy, or he wants something, because I'm a half glass empty kind of guy. I mean, that's just the way I am. I'm naturally distrusting. But I met these people, they get a snow blower, and they would snow blow everybody's house or driveway in the neighborhood because, hey, they just love snow blowing, and they're only going to get a couple of opportunities, to do it with global warming now. And, so we were leaving, and I back up, and he's across the street doing the same thing to the other house. And so I rolled down the window and I said, hey, what's going on? He goes, hey, I don't even remember his name. And my wife's name's Ma. We live over here. Yeah, I know. I'm thinking to myself, you've been here 3 years. And he's like, some people were weird about that. I hope you didn't mind. I just thought I would just go up and down the street and kind of take care of the devil strip. No, it was great. I mean, and he did this phenomenal job. I mean, it's the edging is perfect. And I tried to do with my battery powered weed whacker. It doesn't do anything like that. But I mean, it looked really good. He goes, yeah, I mean, I'll continue to do it if you don't mind. I'm thinking to myself, hell yeah, do whatever you want to do, dude. As long as I don't have to pay you. But I thought that was really nice of him to do that. And hopefully I'll have nothing weird to report, in a later episode, my next episode 3 months from now. I know that's what you're thinking. But I'm grateful that he would do that. So there's a lot of little things to be grateful for this time around, I think. Hopefully it's Memorial Day weekend and you're relaxing. I've been doing lots of stuff, just, putting stuff on eBay that I want to get rid of, doing some stuff around the house. I have a fence that separates me from my neighbor that I need to have torn down, and I'm trying to figure out if that's something I can do. And I roasted coffee this weekend and just trying to get some stuff done. I have to go to this cookout thing that I really don't want to go to, and Donna really doesn't want to go to it. But I have to do that, and that's about it. So, hey, first of all, sorry that it's been so long since I've uploaded an episode. And I know I've said this before, I'm like the boy who cries wolf, but I am close. You're thinking, yeah, right. To doing my first video episode. I had to switch over some gear, and I bought something, I didn't like it, and I had to get rid of it, and I had to sell it, and then I had to get something else. And now I don't know if I like that, and it's a never-ending battle. I chose a very bad hobby. This photography, videography thing is just taking it really does damage to your budget. And now I'm trying to get certified for my drone because I want to fly a drone, and that's taking a lot more time than I thought it was going to take. So anyway, here's hoping things are great in your world, that you're finding, when the chessboard is spread out, you see the move, and, you make the move towards showing some gratitude. I think it makes you feel good. It makes me feel good. It's not always the panacea for everything, I have to admit, but that's the way I am. I'm a half glass empty kind of person, and I'm just going to go with the flow. Hopefully you're going with the flow. You're staying safe. And we'll figure out a way tomorrow to honor, those military veterans who, gave the ultimate sacrifice. We like to try to do that. We'll usually travel out to Atwood, which is about a half an hour from here, and visit a cemetery. And other than that, we're laying low like, elderly people should. So here's hoping things are great in your world. And thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Gratitude Journal podcast.